Most people spend their lives staring at destinations instead of building vehicles. They talk about where they want to go, but they never design how they will move. They say, I want success, I want freedom, I want a better life, but they wake up every day with no structure, no process, and no plan for motion. A goal is nothing more than a point on the horizon. A system is the engine that carries you forward. One gives you direction, the other gives you momentum, and momentum is what changes lives. A destination without a vehicle is just a fantasy. You can point to a mountain and say, I want to be there. But if you don't have a road, if you don't have a car, if you don't have fuel, you will remain exactly where you are. That is how most people treat their dreams. They admire them. They announce them. They post them. But they do not build the machinery required to reach them. They fall in love with the idea of arrival and ignore the discipline of travel. Goals are emotional. Systems are practical. A goal excites you for a moment. A system trains you for a lifetime. When you rely only on goals, you rely on motivation, and motivation is unstable. Some mornings you wake up powerful. Some mornings you wake up tired. Some days you feel unstoppable. Some days you feel empty. But a system does not care about your mood. A system does not care about your mood. A system only cares about execution. It says, this is what we do today, not tomorrow, not next year. Today, think about this. A goal says, I want to be healthy. A system says, I wake up at 6, I drink water, I move my body, and I eat with discipline. One is a wish. The other is a routine. A goal says, I want to be wealthy. A system says, I save, I invest, I learn, and I manage my money daily. One is hope. The other is architecture. Life does not reward intention. Life rewards structure. The mistake people make is believing that once they reach the goal, everything will change. But the truth is, what changes you is not the finish line. What changes you is the daily behavior required to move toward it. The person you become on the journey is more powerful than the destination you arrive at. Systems build identity. Goals only measure outcomes. When you build a system, you are not chasing success. You are becoming the kind of person who produces success naturally. A vehicle does not ask where it will end up. It only asks if the engine works and if the direction is clear. That is what a system does for your life. It removes confusion. It removes debate. It removes excuses. You no longer wake up asking, what should I do today? You wake up knowing this is my process. And when process becomes habit, habit becomes destiny. People think they need big dramatic changes to transform their lives. They believe in sudden breakthroughs. But real change is boring. It is repetitive. It is quiet. It is doing the same small, disciplined actions again and again until they compound into something extraordinary. A system is not glamorous. It is not loud. It does not seek applause. It seeks consistency. And consistency always wins. The power of a system is that it works even when you don't feel strong. On the days when your confidence is low, the system carries you. On the days when fear is loud, the system carries you. On the days when doubt attacks, the system carries you. Because you are no longer depending on emotion. You are depending on design. You have built a structure that supports you when your willpower is weak. And here is the dangerous part. Once your system starts working, success becomes inevitable. Not because you are lucky, but because you are predictable. You show up every day. You do the work every day. You move forward every day. While others wait for inspiration, you rely on repetition. While others talk about change, you practice change. Over time, the gap between intention and action becomes so wide that your results separate you from the crowd. Goals are fragile. They break when life gets hard. Systems are resilient. They adapt when life gets messy. A goal can be delayed. A system continues. A goal can be forgotten. A system becomes automatic. This is why disciplined people don't chase motivation. They create routines. They understand that freedom is not found in doing whatever you want. Freedom is found in mastering what you do daily. When you shift from goals to systems, something powerful happens. You stop obsessing over the future and start controlling the present. You realize that today is the only place where power exists. You cannot act in tomorrow. You cannot fix yesterday, but you can build a system for today. And today, repeated long enough, becomes your entire life. A destination only matters if you are moving. A dream only matters if it is supported by daily action. A vision only matters if it is backed by discipline. Systems turn imagination into implementation. They take abstract ideas and make them concrete. They turn a one day into every day. So the real question is not, what do I want? The real question is, what will I do daily to become it? Not once, not sometimes. Daily. Because life does not change by intention. It changes by repetition. If you want a different future, do not search for a bigger goal. Build a better system. Design your mornings. Design your habits. Design your behavior. Become an architect of your routine. Because once the vehicle is built, the destination will come. Goals are destinations. Systems are vehicles. And the vehicle you build today determines where you arrive tomorrow. People love intensity because it feels powerful. It feels heroic. It feels like change is happening in one dramatic moment. They wake up one day and say, from today, I will do everything. They train for 3 hours, work for 16 hours, read 10 books in a week, and push themselves to the edge of exhaustion. And for a short time, they feel unstoppable. But intensity is loud and short-lived. Consistency is quiet and permanent. Intensity impresses. Consistency transforms. The problem with intensity is that it depends on emotion. It depends on energy. It depends on mood. When you feel inspired, you go all in. When you feel tired, you stop. That creates a cycle of starting and quitting, of pushing and collapsing, of hope and disappointment. A life built on intensity is unstable because it has no structure. Discipline is not about doing something big once. It is about doing something small every day without negotiation. Consistency is not exciting. It does not give you fireworks. It gives you foundations. And foundations are what hold buildings when storms come. When life becomes difficult, when pressure rises, when fear shows up, intensity disappears. But consistency remains because it is not based on feeling. It is based on routine. It is not based on courage. It is based on commitment. When discipline becomes a daily structure, you remove chaos from your life. You stop asking yourself what to do and start executing what you already decided. That is the power of structure. It protects you from yourself. It protects you from procrastination. A river is consistent, and over time, it carves mountains. That is how success works. A burst of effort may look impressive, but a steady flow of effort reshapes your entire life. The person who works a little every day will always defeat the person who works a lot. Once in a while. Not because they are more talented, but because they are more reliable. Discipline becomes powerful when it is boring, when it is predictable, when it is automatic, when you no longer debate with yourself. You wake up and you do the work. You don't need drama. You don't need speeches. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need a system that repeats. Consistency teaches your mind who is in control. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you tell your brain, I decide, not my emotions. Every time you act without waiting for inspiration, you build authority over your own life. That's true power. Not shouting. Not forcing. But mastering your behavior. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack continuity. They train for 1 month and quit. They save for 2 weeks and stop. They study for a few days and get distracted. They confuse movement with progress. Progress is not about speed. It is about direction repeated over time. A daily structure turns effort into identity. You no longer say, I try. You say, this is what I do. You no longer hope to change. You practice change. And when you practice something long enough, it becomes who you are. A person who trains daily becomes disciplined. A person who reads daily becomes wise. A person who saves daily becomes secure. Identity is not chosen in words. It is built in actions. Consistency also removes fear. When you face a big task, fear grows because it feels heavy. Feels heavy. But when you break it into daily structure, fear shrinks. You don't have to win the whole war today. You only have to fight today's battle. And tomorrow you fight again. And one day, without realizing it, you have won. Intensity burns fuel fast. Consistency conserves energy. It creates sustainability. It allows you to grow without destroying yourself. A disciplined structure does not ask for everything at once. It asks for something every day. And that is a request the human mind can accept. The greatest illusion people have is that they need a breakthrough. What they really need is a routine. A breakthrough is emotional. A routine is mechanical. A breakthrough is rare. A routine is available every day, and the routine will eventually create a breakthrough, not the other way around. When discipline becomes daily structure, excuses lose their power. You stop negotiating with time. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop hoping life will slow down. You understand that life will always be busy, and that is why structure is necessary. Structure does not limit freedom. It creates it. Because when your actions are organized, your mind becomes peaceful. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every promise you keep strengthens your confidence. Every promise you break weakens it. A daily structure is a series of small promises kept. Over time, that creates self-respect. And self-respect creates courage, and courage creates results. You do not need to be extreme. You need to be faithful to the process. You do not need to be dramatic. You need to be dependable. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be perfect. You need to be present. Show up every day, even when you are tired, even when you are afraid, even when no one is watching. The world celebrates intensity because it is visible. But the world is changed by consistency because it is unstoppable. Quiet discipline will always defeat loud ambition. A small step every day will always defeat a giant step once a year. When discipline becomes a daily structure, your life stops being random. It becomes intentional. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop reacting and start creating. And slowly, without fireworks, without applause, without noise, your future begins to change. Not because you were powerful once, but because you were faithful every day.